Hey YouTube, Kim Brzezlik here. Please subscribe. My last video I touched a little bit on the drawbar I was making. Can't call it an epic fail, but well, let me bring you into it. Okay, my plan, I started off with a piece of 1/2-inch steel rod. Don't know what kind of steel that is. I got that at Lowe's. I'm not sure what the strength of that is, but I wanted to bring it down to 11.73 millimeters in order to tap the M12 by 175 threads. On the opposite end, I wanted to drill a hole and tap it, the 5 millimeter, and put a stud in there to going to a piece of brass that I recycled from another project. I made this a through hole by mistake. Well, actually, I made it a through hole by cutting my work piece off a little too short. So I put an M5 screw in one end of it to give that hole a bottom. So here's what I ended up with. There's the screw giving me the bottom. There's a nut. All this cutting here was just experimenting with speeds, cutting materials, finish. This is my 11.73, and you know, I kept bringing the diameter down, trying to get this die to work. But when you pay $17 for a metric tap and die set at Harbor Freight, you really can't expect much performance with hardened steel, maybe, or any kind of steel. But anyway, the drawbar was for this collet chuck, I guess. So we take the chuck off. This sits about in this area, and this has an M12 thread inside there. So this drawbar would go in there, screw into the back of that, and basically keep it from flying out while you're in the middle of a job. Or it wouldn't be a job in my case, but a project. So if you know anything about this and see anything wrong with this idea, let me know in the comments, please. I'm working on getting some decent dies so that I can do some exterior threads, and I may actually try to cut some threads on this machine later on. I've been having trouble with cutting period and different cutting tools. I've been working with this recently. Got this on Banggood. I'm not sure. Seems to do pretty well. I haven't done any brass or aluminum with it yet, but it did a pretty decent job on the steel. I got some pretty decent finishes. I always seem like I'm running way too fast, but sometimes it just seems like that's what it takes to get a decent finish. Let's see if these inserts have any information. It just seems to be a generic insert, made in China, I'm sure. I did see some videos earlier in the day on Sandvik, I believe it is, Sandvik inserts. I'd love to try something like that. I'm going to work on trying to find a Sandvik insert that'll fit in the holders that I already have, and see how that works out. But anyway, please subscribe. And here's a little piece of the threaded rod, 5mm, that I used. And you could subscribe. One more thing, maybe not, I'm going to go into. Well, I got this thing already off. The chip guard's already off. Let me back this off. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Give us something to look at while we're turning. I showed this in another video. I guess it's a poor man's digital readout. Metric and inch both at a snap. Okay. Here is my problem. And this condition existed from day one. And that is these deep holes set in here. Those of you that don't know, real quickly, these adjustment screws determine the width of travel on that surface. It just doesn't seem right that those are like that, but I tried running it, turning it around upside down, and basically running it with this surface contacting here. I did file it down, and it does seem to be smooth. I don't believe I've incurred any damage here. But please leave a comment as far as this goes. I just tried to put this back together. This is the second take of this video. Please subscribe. And I couldn't get it back together, whether I just didn't have the patience or what. But so I put it back together with the holes lined up with the screws, the set screws. But I did run it yesterday in this configuration, and still had the rigidity, maybe a little better as far as the smoothness goes. So please leave a comment. As far as this thought goes, and please leave a comment on this situation. This seems to just be big enough not to go through. I don't think it's as long as it's not going into that hole, I think it's okay. But I'm asking you, so maybe you could tell me. Do I need a washer there? Okay. Thank you very much. Please subscribe. It looks like 70% of the people watching my video do not subscribe. And, well, I'd just be tickled to have more than 15 subscribers, or 14, or whatever it is. Alright, like the video. If you want to, you could ring the bell for notifications. Tell a friend. In a very upcoming video, we will take this apron off and see how the chip guard I taped on there is holding up. I just used double-faced tape. Of course, now I have the taps that I would need to do the smallest holes. Those are watchmakers taps. Let's look at this set here in comparison to this 5mm rod. I don't know if this even has the sizes on it. But I certainly have no shortage of smaller taps. Here's my other thing. Another project I have is a friend of mine has asked me to make some nuts for this rod here. That is to sweep secondhand with a clockwork. There's a brass hex nut that goes on here, actually two of them. It seems like it's a proprietary thread to the company who made this clockwork. And I am not finding the size die. You can't get a good picture of that. There it is. I do have some I did try some different nuts on that, and I tried the M2, which is here, and it almost wants to go on, and it almost tells me that that might be an imperial thread and not a metric thread. I have some thread gauges, but I never seem to have the patience or the eyeballs to see something that fine. Okay, once again, subscribe. Sorry about the long ass video. Have a great day.